Evict a tenant in Michigan. There are times that it's hard to evict a tenant, especially if he is aggressive and impatient. The situation is worst if your tenant becomes illogical because he does not see the issues that you are presenting. It may be expensive if there's a need to settle your case in court. If you have a tenant in Michigan and you are experiencing difficulties because of rental dues or attitude problems, then below are steps and guides to help you evict your tenant in Michigan. The following guidelines are important because you must also ensure that the rights of your tenants are protected. Have a copy of Tenant and Landlords Practical Guide. You must also get a copy of the landlord or tenant pamphlet. You can get those at the local district courthouse. You can get your copy for free or you can get it with minimal charges. It depends on your location. Form DC 100A. It is the form for demand for possession, non-payment of rent landlord-tenant. You can get the form online or at the courthouse in your area. Give the form to your tenant because the judge won't grant an eviction if the form isn't properly served. The DC 100A form will give your tenant up to 7 days to pay. Create a 7-day notice. The notice must include the name of the tenant, address, eviction grounds, date, and your signature. You must notarize your notice and it must be delivered via first-class mail. You need to mail it to each of the adults on the lease. Ensure that you have a mailing form or certificate from your local post office. After the notice period, if your tenant remains in your property after the notice period, then you must fill up a complaint, Form DC 102A, and a summons, Form DC 104. You also need 2 copies of the lease and file it before going to the courthouse. You need 5 copies each of the complaint and the summons form, plus 1 copy each for each of your tenant. You may pay $1 for each page if you'll get the copies in the courthouse. Don't forget to include the copy of your 7-day notice. You can select a way on how to serve your tenants. The court has a list of trusted and approved process servers. It will be an additional cost, but you are ensured that your case will be properly handled. Remember that it's vital to handle your case properly so it won't be dismissed. The court will schedule a date and time for your case. Probably, the hearing of your case will happen in 2 or 3 weeks. It will depend on the caseload. After filing your summons, the tenant must deliver the documents via registered mail. He can also deliver the paperwork in person or he can ask someone to bring it to you. Ask for an authentication letter from your tenant if he will ask a third party to bring the documents to you. The decision of the judge. If your problem with your tenant will end up in court, then prepare yourself for the judge's decision. But if you are morally right, then there's nothing to be afraid of. You can request for an order of eviction if you are favored, and you can ask it 10 days after the trial. If your tenant insists to stay, then the sheriff will execute the order and your tenant will be evicted by force. There are times that problems with tenants arise. And most of these reasons are financial woes. Don't forget to respect your tenant and negotiate with him. But you need to be tough and prudent in your decisions in situations where you feel that he is avoiding the rental fee. Understand each other's rights so you can have a legal basis in case that an argument arises. Know your tenant from the very start and check all needed documents and verify them before signing up a renting contract.